Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Instead of talking about truth and reconciliation, people talked about me, and that's on me.
The Prime Minister in Kamloops. Is it enough to make amends? Also,
could have been completely avoidable had we been a little bit sooner with the booster program.
Why advocates are calling for a faster response to deal with COVID deaths in seniors. And
the demand just keeps growing. Our wait list here keeps growing.
The rise of the ghost kitchen and how it may be here to stay.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight in Kamloops, where the Prime Minister has made a long-awaited visit with the Kamloops First Nation. Justin Trudeau ignored multiple invitations after the discovery of unmarked graves there. As Renee Filipponi tells us today, he apologized, but some say they were hoping for more.
It was a moment months in the making. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau arrived at Kamloops after not responding to an invitation to be there for the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
We welcome you, Prime Minister Trudeau, to Kamloops of Shwetmakulu.
The chief of the nation didn't hold back about her feelings that day when she discovered Trudeau was instead on vacation.
The shock, anger, and sorrow and disbelief was palpable in our community.
The Prime Minister took the criticism and offered yet another apology.
I should have been here with you. I am sorry I wasn't.
In May, more than 200 unmarked graves were found near the Kamloops Indian Residential School, putting this community at the center of the push for reconciliation.
Our babies are buried here. Our children, our little ones, they deserve justice.
The members of the community were looking for action today and a federal commitment to build a healing and cultural center.
I think we're beyond theatrics, platitudes, and words. And as stated by many Indigenous peoples in this country, we need to see action.
But no new commitments were announced.
All of that was so traumatizing and lots of anger.
Rose Miller attended the Kamloops Residential School, where she was abused and says she was treated like nothing. She hopes Trudeau was listening today and says she tells her story to help the community heal.
Our people need to learn that history, and other people need to learn that history so we can understand. But for reconciliation, that's a long ways away.
And we'll have the full interview with the chief of the Kamloops First Nation coming up later in the show. The rollout of a third shot of the COVID vaccine is underway at care homes in BC, including at a Burnaby facility where the death toll has gone up to 12. More than 100 confirmed cases have now been linked to the active outbreak at the Willingdon Care Centre. As Isabel Regam tells us, seniors advocates are frustrated and say it could have been prevented.
In the last 24 hours, 2 more COVID outbreaks have been declared at BC care homes, one at Heritage Village in Chilliwack and another at Queen's Park Care Centre in New Westminster. No deaths have been linked to outbreaks there so far, but it's a different story in Burnaby at Willingdon Care Centre, where since Thursday, 2 more people have died. In total, 12 people have died in a span of 3 weeks. Seniors advocate Isabel McKenzie says what's happening at Willingdon is a sign of what can and will continue to happen without more boosters administered.
We need to be getting them out as quickly as we can because I think we're clearly seeing the impact of the waning protection.
It's something that we see as could have been completely avoidable had we been a little bit sooner with the booster program.
Residents of long-term care in Ontario and Alberta started getting an additional dose in late August, prior to an official recommendation by the National Advisory Committee on Immunization. More than a month later, BC began its rollout of a third shot last week.
In Ontario, which is 2.5 times the size of British Columbia, they've completed their booster program. All of their people have had their booster shots in residential care homes. And here in BC, we're literally just getting started this week.
Officials in Alberta have confirmed more than 35,000 third doses have been administered in long-term care. In BC, that number is unknown.
To date, we don't have data on how many seniors have been vaccinated with the booster shot and what the plan is. And also a concern, many seniors in the community, in the over 80 group, are as vulnerable as people in long-term care.
There's also a push to increase rapid testing in long-term care facilities, paired with a third shot. Without it, advocates say BC is likely to see more serious outbreaks and deaths in the coming weeks. Isabel Regam, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC's rolling average of daily cases is up slightly, with 1,846 people infected over the weekend, but the province has been seeing deadlier numbers in recent days. 26 more people have died, and this has pushed BC's weekly average of deaths to its highest since January. 360 people are in hospital, 151 are being treated in the ICU, with about 86% of those people unvaccinated. More than half of Canadian parents plan to get their 5 to 11-year-old kids vaccinated as soon as Health Canada gives the green light. This is according to a new survey. The Angus Reid poll shows 18% will eventually have their kids vaccinated against COVID-19, but will take a wait-and-see approach. Almost 1/4 say their elementary school kids will not get the jab. And tonight, Health Canada is reviewing a request for Pfizer for authorization for its vaccine for kids 5 to 11. The vaccine would be a third of the strength of a normal dose. It's the first submission of its kind in Canada. Well, the NHL is dropping the hammer on Canadian-born Evander Kane tonight, suspending the forward 21 games without pay after reports he used a fake vaccination card. The embattled San Jose Sharks player also forced to forfeit more than $2 million in salary, the money going to the player's emergency assistance fund. Kane released a statement apologizing to the league, his teammates, and fans, and says he regrets his mistake. This is Kane's 5th and lengthiest suspension from the NHL. Well, if you want to ski or snowboard or work at Grouse Mountain this winter, you're going to need to be fully vaccinated. It's the first ski resort in BC to impose the requirement. As the CBC's Rafferty Baker explains, public health orders don't currently include mandatory vaccination requirements for these activities.
Ski season is just around the corner, and for people at Grouse, it'll be slightly different than last year.
I double masked last year coming up because I was scared. And now I think it's fantastic.
The resort will require everyone born in 2009 or earlier to be fully vaccinated. The new rule kicks in on the first day of skiing next month.
Just walked in, had my phone, had my pass, done. Now we just need snow.
We believe implementing this policy will provide the strongest protection against COVID-19 for those who visit and work at the mountain, as well as allowing us to operate at regular capacity.
Grouse is unique in that you need to take the gondola up the mountain to reach the slopes. That means getting into an enclosed space with a bunch of other people. The mountain is closed for about 3 weeks now while they do routine annual maintenance, so there aren't many people here, but those who are stopping by are happy about the news.
I'm quite supportive of it. I feel pretty good about making sure that everybody I'm going to be up here with me is vaccinated, so I'm quite happy about it.
Everybody should have the right to be safe, and so if everybody's vaccinated, everybody's safe.
We're totally on board with that. We're grateful that people have been vaccinated because we ourselves are also vaccinated, so we support it and we're advocates of it.
Feedback has been positive. There's going to be discussion, obviously. This is a hot topic, but we feel this was the right decision for our resort.
At Cypress Mountain, they're still waiting to determine what their policy will be around vaccination. And over at Seymour, they're aiming for 100% voluntary staff vaccination. And for guests, it'll be up to the public health officer's orders. Rafferty Baker, CBC News, North Vancouver.
While many restaurants have taken a hit during the pandemic, some are quietly booming, and that's led to the rise of the ghost kitchen in BC. Anita Bathe explains what it is and why it might be here to stay.
It's not your typical restaurant dining experience. No servers, no dining hall, no parking lot. These are ghost kitchens, only preparing food for takeout and delivery apps.
Just how we are shopping online, we can be eating online as well.
This 23-year-old is running a sushi pizza restaurant virtually. Orders ding in from food delivery apps like Uber Eats and Skip the Dishes, and Nguyen and his brother get to work.
All of the smaller things where less orders, then they come through my email and through my phone.
As an Uber driver, Nguyen saw many opportunities in the restaurant industry were locked away.
There were so many struggling restaurants in Vancouver that only had their kitchen open. All the chairs were stacked on the tables, and I realized that you can start a business out of just a kitchen.
He's now one of 12 ghost kitchens, renting this commissary, a shared kitchen space, and a more affordable way to follow his passion for food and beverage rather than a brick and mortar.
Definitely don't have a lot of capital to be running my own restaurant, right? But this is a great place for me to test things out, right?
Like regular restaurants, ghost kitchens must have a permit, food safe training, and a food safety plan. The Ministry of Health does not have data on how many ghost kitchens operate in BC. But the operator of this commissary kitchen says the demand is red hot.
The demand just keeps growing. Our wait list here keeps growing. We're full across the 3 locations. We can't keep up.
Maharaj says about 40 ghost kitchen hopefuls are on a waiting list to use this space. Long wait lists also mean some have to find new solutions, like this.
We did want to do a ghost kitchen, but it's just very popular, very in high demand right now. There's long wait lists.
So they found a shuttle bus on Kijiji.
It was a relief, actually, because we were sitting there waiting and just wondering what to do.
The bus sits in the parking lot of a brewery and packs food to go and for Uber Eats. Meanwhile, for those working in their respective stations, ghost kitchens have provided a new purpose during the pandemic.
We are online. We can change up our menu. We can test different product items. We can start several brands.
Flexibility from the kitchen to pickup to your doorstep. Anita Bathe, CBC News, Vancouver.
On Vancouver Island, Franklin River Road and Bamfield Road are lifelines for places like Bamfield itself and several First Nation communities. The gravel road is considered dangerous. Now, work is starting to fix that. The road has claimed many lives, often full of potholes and washouts or dust in the summer. In September of 2019, 2 students from the University of Victoria were killed when their bus rolled off the road in a rainstorm. Now, a $30 million upgrade to make it safer was made official in a gravel pit near Bamfield.
This is a pathway to whatever we want it to be now. And so you know, that's how I look at it. It's really important to have a wide scope on what this road can mean.
There are 77 kilometers of gravel, bumpy road between Bamfield and Port Alberni. Starting next year, though, it will get a fresh new seal coat, and then 15 kilometers of it will be paved in 2023. The Huayet First Nation says it will benefit in many ways. There will also be economic opportunities in areas like tourism and industry. They also say it's another key step in reconciliation. Well, BC's pilot project combining daycare and kindergarten in the same classroom is being expanded tonight. The program, dubbed Seamless Day Kindergarten, will grow from 4 school districts to 25 next fall. Early childhood educators lead the before and after school programs and partner with teachers during class hours. It gives parents peace of mind knowing their kids have childcare and learning all in one spot.
It seems like such a simple concept, but there will be lifelong positive benefits for students who will find the transition to school safer, more supported, and easier to navigate in their first formative year.
The $1.2 million expansion is part of the province's 10-year childcare strategy.
Rather than following.
An expansion is coming to the Vancouver landfill, one aimed at removing greenhouse gas emissions. The province will spend more than $4 million to upgrade the landfill. It will increase the current gas collection system. New wills, collectors, and piping will be installed to capture greenhouse gas emissions that are created when waste breaks down.
This expansion will mean that almost 100% of the landfill operations will capture gas that otherwise would have vented to the atmosphere largely as methane.
The landfill gases will be refined into renewable natural gas that will be sold to Fortis BC. The company will then be able to distribute it back to the community. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now with the forecast, and it looks like you're bright and sunny out there.
Anita, it is unbelievable after 56 hours of steady rain with the atmospheric river to see the sunshine this afternoon. Yeah, just getting the last rays before they dip down below the horizon. Let me take you through the totals, though, from that weekend event that really kicked off Friday, lasted through the day, through Saturday, and into early Sunday morning. YVR 82.4 millimeters. Vancouver Harbor, so downtown, over 120 millimeters. West Van 156, and up towards Squamish more like 160. Victoria 15, just a 15 millimeter story this weekend. Classic rain shadow for southeasterly facing shores. Quick look at the current temperatures. 10 right now at YVR, 10 across straight as well. We've been below seasonal this month every single day. We will see a bit of a bump up in temperatures under this high pressure ridge. You can see that stream of cloud up towards central and northern sections. The atmospheric river is gone. We are seeing showers up there, but things will clear out for most of the province over the next few days. Also watching the temperature trend, as I mentioned, for YVR. This is straight model data. I think this is a little ambitious for tomorrow, but I think we will be much warmer tomorrow. And then Thursday, that 17 not out of the question. So, Anita, we're looking at a drier and warmer forecast, but I'll get you through to the next round of rain, which, well, it's the fall. It'll be here sooner than we know it.
You always got to bring that next round, Johanna. Come on.
I do. Always the next round. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We want to take you back to our top story now and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's visit to the Kamloops First Nation. Reporter Angela Sterrett was also at the meeting today, and she joins me live now from Kamloops. Angela, you had a chance to speak with Chief Casimir earlier today. How did she feel about that visit with Trudeau?
Yeah, I mean, what she said initially at the press conference was that this was bittersweet. Remember, the community here has been asking for the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, to visit this community since well before the federal election, since the end of May, when they announced what could be up to 215 unmarked graves of children that never made it home from residential school. So she talked about being angry, about the community grieving, about feeling sorrow, and having confusion about why the Prime Minister was not here on September 30th during the first inaugural day of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. She did say, however, before the meeting, before the reporters got to ask Justin Trudeau the hard questions, she did take him to what could be the graves, just meters away from where I'm standing now. She said she was very humbled by his thoughts and by his words there. She said he was very sorrowful. So the day kind of twisted and turned, starting with a real atmosphere of accountability and ending with sort of, where do we go from here? But here's what Roseanne had to say about how she felt about the meeting today with Justin Trudeau.
He came here to make amends. He came here to apologize. He came here to, own his mistakes. And so with that, just like our elder has said, that, we're forgiving. We all make mistakes. We all have to own our mistakes. And it's up to us as individuals to, make steps to rectify them. And I think, that was a really good step today.
Okay, and speaking of steps, what is the next step? How does the nation move forward with the important work of identifying the missing children whose graves have not been found, or who've been found, rather? Just a bit of a technical difficulty there with Angela. We will try to get back to her later in the show. But we do have a full interview coming up with the chief of the Kamloops First Nation at around 6:30. And I want to thank you for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. I'm your host, Anita Bathe. And if you're not already doing so, you can always find our program live on our free app. It's called CBC Gem. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. The former U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell has died of COVID-related complications. the tributes and the criticisms of the controversial political figure next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. An 82-year-old runner from Ontario has won the Boston Marathon for participants over 80 years old. It was his second straight win at the finish line for Thornhill's Cayo Tiverso. Have a look.
Say the word again for me.
Sisu, S-I-S-U, Sisu. It's a Finnish word and really helps me many tough places. You know.
And it basically means don't give up?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's, I had to say Sisu there. My name is Cayo Tiverso, and I just ran the Boston Marathon. On my age group is 80, and I happened to win. Starting line, you are a little bit not nervous. This time I really take it, I wasn't really nervous at all. I was taking it really easy. The first 10K, well, according to my training schedule that I can do around 4 hours. And I tried to keep that space all the way to the finish line.
You fell?
Yeah, I fell. Yeah, I went like this, but no opening here, only my
How long did it take you to get up?
Guys, they lifted me up. I didn't have a chance to try to myself, but they lifted me up and they said, now you walk. I said, I have no time to walk, you know, because so I took off. I said, bye guys.
So you actually have to take a step back and realize, wow, like it's pretty special. When he runs Boston, and you know, this year was so hard to get him there, that when he started that race, like we were all getting all emotional. Those of us that couldn't be there, and my sister who was there, she was so lucky sending us pictures and videos of you running, and it was just, that was the best feeling we could have ever had to get him there. We know if he's there, he's stubborn, he'll finish, because that's what he does. 2019, when he set the record, was incredible. This year I thought was a little bit even more special, which is hard to say, but you know, 2 years champion, I can't, you know, he's dad. That's who he is.
Do you have a secret?
There's no secret. Just hard work, yeah. Just hard training and sleep too. Sleep is very important. That's, you know, that, yeah, there's no secret, just hard work.
Let's go to Saskatchewan now, where the province has been struggling with record numbers of patients in hospital ICUs. The Premier announcing some of those COVID-19 patients will be transferred 2 provinces over to Ontario.
We are in the process now of officially moving 6 of our patients into hospitals in Ontario to preserve the quality of care the highest quality of care that we know is available.
Scott Moe also says his government has asked Ottawa for additional staff and help with specialized support for the province's ICUs. Well, the first Black U.S. Secretary of State, Colin Powell, has died. The retired American general took a lead role in shaping U.S. foreign policy through 3 presidential administrations. The CBC's Susanna De Silva now with a look back at Powell's legacy.
I will never not be a soldier.
The man who considered himself a lifelong soldier died this morning at the age of 84, according to his family, from COVID complications despite being fully vaccinated. A longtime aide told the Associated Press he'd been treated for the past few years for blood cancer.
I've always felt strongly that you should try to solve conflicts in this world through negotiations.
The son of Jamaican immigrants, Colin Powell served 2 tours in the Vietnam War, then rose through the ranks to be a 4-star general. He went on to serve as National Security Advisor to Ronald Reagan, the first African-American and youngest chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. But it was as Secretary of State under George W. Bush that came a moment he would consider a blot on his legacy.
What we're giving you are facts and conclusions based on solid intelligence.
Powell made a speech to the United Nations with flawed intelligence that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. He argued for a war on Iraq. He later said he made the speech despite reservations and regretted it.
It'll be a footnote in his background of the speech to the UN about the weapons of mass destruction, but that's not the full breadth.
Powell would later endorse Democratic candidates, including Barack Obama, was critical of Donald Trump, and told CNN he was no longer a Republican after the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol.
Secretary Powell was, simply and completely, a leader, and he knew how to build a strong and united team. He treated people the way he expected them to treat each other, and he made sure that they knew he would always have their back. The result was that his people would walk through walls for him.
I lost a tremendous personal friend and mentor. He has been my mentor for a number of years. He always made time for me.
President Joe Biden said he was grateful for Powell's endorsement and called him a trusted confidant and, above all, his friend. Susana De Silva, CBC News, Washington.
Public health officials are warning Canadians to get their flu shot as experts warn of an impending wave of influenza.
We can get vaccinated, and people should get vaccinated when the flu vaccine is made available. And wearing a mask in public, especially if you're going to be somewhere like a bus, a metro, subway, where you're going to be in very close contact with a bunch of other people, I think that's a very reasonable precaution. And we should not forget that in many parts of the world, wearing a mask on public transportation in public settings, that is completely normal.
The federal government says every Canadian over the age of 6 months should get a flu shot, and anyone 65 and older should consider an enhanced high-dose influenza vaccine. That gives older people a stronger immune response and extra protection. And yes, you still need the flu shot, even if you're fully vaccinated against COVID-19. It's been more than 2 months since the Taliban took control of Afghanistan. It now patrols some of the very streets and towns that in the past saw Canadian boots on the ground. But the new government is having to deal with old problems, including security and an economy crisis. Now the Taliban is seeking assistance from the same nations it fought against for 2 decades. The CBC senior correspondent Susan Ormiston interviewed a Taliban police chief.
Taking back Kandahar. Streets once patrolled by Canadian forces are now in Taliban control. The power flipped. The new Taliban police chief, who says he fought face-to-face with Canadians, condemns the NATO forces and then asks for help. They destroyed villages, did nighttime attacks with American support, he tells us. Our expectations now of Canadians, if they want to help Kandahar, they should send humanitarian aid. West of Kandahar, in the fighting fields of Panjwai, where Taliban insurgents once planted deadly roadside bombs killing soldiers, Afghan forces were defeated back in July, even before Kabul fell.
Panjwai is seared into the hearts and minds of Canadians. Some of our most fierce fighting was here, particularly in 2006. Nearly 30 Canadians died here. So now, to see it back in the control of the Taliban, who waged such a brutal insurgency, brings up painful memories and questions about Canada's sacrifice.
At the district centre, built by Canada, villagers say they hope the Talib flag will fly forever. but they remember what Canadian forces tried to do in the 5-year mission here. Canadians were good people. They realized their mission was against the Afghan people, and they left the country. This is a good thing. Now the fight is over. The insurgents have to govern. Drought is killing crops, rural poverty entrenched, schools and clinics needed, they say, and they want their old enemies to send assistance. A stunning reversal. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Panjwai, Afghanistan.
Canada's Governor-General is on her first state visit since being appointed in July. Mary Simon arrived in Berlin, where she met with the German president for a welcome ceremony. Simon's schedule includes a meeting with the Chancellor, Angela Merkel. She'll also be visiting a museum that showcases non-European art. It features a number of Canadian artifacts, including a totem pole from the Haida Nation. Tomorrow, the Governor-General will be in Frankfurt as the guest of honor representing Canada at a large international book fair. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in Kamloops today after ignoring previous invitations from local First Nations. We speak to the chief of the Kamloops to Secwepemc on what the visit meant and the path forward.
On this day a year ago, there were some pretty frightened people in British Columbia's fish processing industry. They'd caught a glimpse of the future and didn't like the looks of it. The occasion was the first ever ruling under the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement. It forced BC to open up its fish processing to American competitors. Many feared that their jobs would vanish. A year later, those BC fears are still around. But as Ian Hannamansing reports, so are the jobs.
Fishing is always a turbulent business in BC, but there's been even more uncertainty this year as old export restrictions on salmon disappeared. A free trade ruling a year ago allowed up to 20% of the salmon caught in BC to be exported directly from fishing boats to the United States. That followed another international ruling unrelated to the free trade agreement that the rest of the salmon could go south after it was brought to shore in Canada.
They just don't give a damn about what happens to industry here in British Columbia.
Those two decisions prompted emotional outbursts by processing workers who feared as salmon was exported to the States, their jobs would go as well.
We're all going to lose our jobs over it, and nobody seems to really care.
How do you think you're going to be in a year?
Not here.
But as the first salmon season since the free trade ruling comes to an end, those fears now seem to have been premature. Just under 5% of the total BC salmon catch was exported to the U.S. That means workers such as June Yu didn't lose their processing jobs after all.
We're still working a lot, but the tension is there because the companies, we still know that if anything drastic ever happened, they would just shut the doors and they could go down to the States and we'd all be out.
Many in the industry share those concerns, saying that despite this year's relatively low export numbers, the amount of salmon going south is bound to increase. The Fish Processors Union argues there just wasn't enough capacity at U.S. plants to handle more fish this year, but it says that will change.
This is year one. I think that certainly has the potential to grow, especially as capacity is developed down there as they take advantage of this, or as Canadian companies decide to relocate.
And if jobs are to stay here, Canadian companies are already warning unions wages will have to be rolled back to the level of non-unionized workers in Washington state.
We have to get our costs down in processing and our cost of fish down and our cost of labor down, and we have to keep it in line with everybody else.
For their part, some U.S. processing companies don't seem content with the way things are. They say it's still too difficult to get Canadian fish under international trade rules. And so those companies say they're going to lobby their government to try to negotiate even easier access to Canadian salmon. Ian Hannamansing, CBC News, Vancouver.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
And we need to be getting them out as quickly as we can, because I think we're clearly seeing the impact of the waning protection.
With the death toll at a care home in Burnaby increasing to 12, advocates are frustrated and say a third COVID shot should have been given sooner. They're also pushing for an increase in rapid testing at long-term care facilities.
And to be able to launch our business, like I was a student, definitely don't have a lot of capital to be running my own restaurant, right? But this is a great place for me to test things out, right?
While many restaurants have taken a hit during the pandemic, ghost kitchens are thriving. They are restaurants without servers or dining hall. They only prepare food for takeout and delivery apps, and they're growing in popularity here in BC.
A path forward for the country that would see Indigenous and non-Indigenous people share and partner and build a better future for everyone.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau visited the Kamloops Nation today in Kamloops. He apologized in person for failing to respond to an invitation to join the community for the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Now, after today's visit in Kamloops, our Angela Starrett chatted with Chief Roseanne Casimir to go beyond what happened in her and Trudeau's planned media availability and learn more about how his visit was received by the community. Angela asked how Trudeau reacted during his visit to the site of the former residential school.
His reaction was very humbling. It was very solemn. He saw the site for the first time. He was there, he listened to and heard how we came about, the work that brought us to where we're at. And he saw firsthand, the care that was put into, preserving the area, ensuring that it's safe, ensuring that, our children are cared for and watched over, and to be here, the songs and the stories that go with, and the work that is, being taken to ensure that, we take care of them until we do the next work, because we're going to be working with science each step of the way towards the accountability.
You said you were humbled by his response to that at the beginning here. You said when you heard about him going to Tofino, you were shocked and angered, and just that was rippling through the world. Do you feel like today changed some of that emotion?
Today, I would say, I can't change the emotions that I felt and what everyone has experienced and went through, at the news of, where he was opposed to being here or even responding to the invitations. But what I do know is when I look at it from, leadership perspective, there should have been a reach out. But, knowing that he came here to make amends, he came here to apologize, he came here to, own his mistakes. And so with that, just like our elder has said, that, we're forgiving. We all make mistakes. We all have to own our mistakes. And it's up to us as individuals to, make steps to rectify them. And I think, that was a really good step today.
Did you find what he said today, the commitments that he said, his apologies, genuine?
I would say they are genuine. He not only had to answer to us, but he also had to answer to the world for what he did wrong and what he didn't do. So he's got steps that he's got to make some real actions to move forward. And here today we had our regional chief, our national chief, as well as our nation chief. And many throughout many areas of BC as well. To pay witness and to see for themselves the promises that were going to be made. So we could, hold to account, especially with that path forward, because it's extremely important, because this is something that impacts all of us. And how do we get to unity, right? Without being committed wholeheartedly to something that's going to benefit everyone.
Do you have confidence after today that you will get the records you need and that you will get the funding you need for that healing from the federal government?
Well, we are determined to get the records that we need. We've got absolute determination to get what we need to continue with that. Because for us, it's about the justice and the accountability, and it's about those basic steps. And so we are going to be, following up to ensure that we receive all documentation so we could start working towards those meaningful steps forward to, find answers for our people.
Can you talk at all about your private meeting? Was there anything that was in there that you're able to share that wasn't shared today?
Well, the private meeting was community-based, and it was extremely important for our survivors and for our grassroots family, because this is something that we've all been traumatized right from the very beginning, and to know that they've been stepping up, they've been advocating, they've been supporting, their truths have been reopened, and there needed to be some meaningful dialogue. And for me, it was about them hearing it from him and him answering to them. And to me, that was the key component, and it was, to me, that was more important than anything else.
Montrealers are mourning the death of a firefighter. He died while on a rescue mission. The dangerous elements he faced to rescue others is next. And at 6:39, you are looking at a live shot of BC Place. Well, it's beautiful tonight. The rain has finally ended. So how long will the dry spell last? Well, Johanna has your answer next.
When it's really sunny and at about, say, 11 or 12, you can just stand on the deck and go, hey guys, and all of a sudden the ground just starts moving.
It was so many at one time there, they just in motion. So just like a carpet moving.
When you get looking at the adult western toads, you can get right down in front of them, and they look like Arnold Schwarzenegger toads. Get in front of these things, and they're very interesting things to look at. And just growing up here, they live around here. And so as kids, you go out the basement stairs, and there'd be one huddled in the leaves, and you just pick it up, and you take it up with you, and you'd put it back where it should be, and then you go on and do your thing. There's roads that surround their breeding wetland 360 degrees around it. So when they migrate 3 times a year, they have to cross those roads. And when they do, they get squished.
The people that don't stop are the people that just don't care. The worst part for me is having people drive by, because you can hear the toads popping. You can see them dying, but to hear them as well, it's really hard to listen to that.
A lot of their existing habitat that may still be there, but it's intersected and bisected with roads and trails, and it just fragments their habitat.
These toads are an important part of the ecosystem. If the toads don't survive and are not sustained, then the whole ecosystem will, over time, degrade and fall apart.
But amphibians are kind of an indicator species or a sentinel species that when things go badly for amphibians, other species are not that far behind, but they're kind of the early warning signal.
We can exist with these beautiful wild creatures. If we can't pull this off, who can?
The only thing that will solve the toads problem is our culture to shift its values so that we make room in our world for all these other species.
If we do something now, we can bring all these back and make a really big impact.
All of the species that are at risk that we see in our environment right now are at risk because we haven't given them a place to live.
We care about life, we care about people, we care about salmon, birds. Why shouldn't we care about a toad?
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Celebrate the achievements and resilience of women with CBC Vancouver's Angela Starrett at the annual Dress for Success Luncheon. Learn more at vancouver.dressforsuccess.org. And CBC Vancouver returns as exclusive media sponsors of the Corleone Men's Choir. Don't miss their upcoming Remembrance Day concerts in November. Learn more at corleone.org.
The Olympic flame that will burn over the 2022 Winter Games has started its journey to the host city, Beijing. The traditional torch lighting ceremony was held today in ancient Olympia in Greece, home of the first of these games. Along with members of the International Olympic Committee and politicians from Greece and China, the ceremony attracted human rights demonstrators. They're protesting against the games being held in China. IOC officials have defended the choice, saying the games in Beijing are about unity. The torch will be handed over to the Olympic Organizing Committee at a ceremony tomorrow and flown to China. The Olympic Winter Games, Beijing 2022, begin February 4th. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe is back with the forecast. But first, Johanna, I know you've been watching that volcano that isn't showing any signs of slowing down. So what's the latest out of the Canary Islands?
Yeah, Anita, we've been talking about this erupting volcano for over 4 weeks now. Want to take you back to a live look. This is early morning hours local time, but you're looking at the live continuing eruption. Wow. Big eruption happening in front of our eyes, continuing to pour lava down the eastern flank of the volcano. So far, 2,000 buildings have been destroyed, 742 hectares of land, and 7,000 people have been evacuated from their homes on the island, which has a population of about 83,000 inhabitants. Amazingly, no injuries or deaths reported so far. These evacuations have been able to happen well ahead of time. Take a look at some drone footage we have from earlier today. Scientists not seeing any signs of the eruption stopping. This could be another weeks, if not months, and you can see the lava just destroying villages in its path. We'll hear more of different stories in the days to come. In fact, hearing today, a drone company actually dropping food to some dogs that had been cut off because of a lava flow, and those dogs able to get to the food. Rescue of those dogs planned in the next couple of days. So it really is such an isolated part of the island, just the eastern flank, but 7,000 people out of their homes in Anita. They may be out of their home for weeks and months to come. So we'll definitely keep you posted. You can really just get a sense of the scale of the destruction. Okay, taking you much closer to home, and we are watching sunshine. It's a nice shift from the atmospheric river. I'm taking you through the forecast rainfall and cloud cover. Here's 6 a.m. tomorrow, so we'll see some high cloud in the mix. It's a mix of sun and cloud Tuesday, so we do have some clouds out there. It's not a bluebird sky day, but definitely getting lots of sunshine. I'm going to keep this running through to Wednesday. That's when the rain will start to show up, sort of at 8, 9 a.m. at this point. This is not a river event, but it's going to be a soggy Wednesday before we see some breaks, possibly Wednesday afternoon into Thursday. Here's the bigger picture, that low pressure system sort of hanging off our coast for one more day, and lots of sunshine through the interior as well. Finally, it breaks through for Wednesday, but really dissipating before it hits the interior. A lovely long stretch of sunny weather from Prince George down through Kelowna and in through the Kootenays. This is just the start of what will be a sunny week ahead. Overnight lows getting quite chilly. I should mention Prince George up towards Fort St. John. Wind chills tomorrow morning around -7. And Prince Rupert, look for some sunshine in your afternoon forecast. So breaking it down, mix of sun and cloud for your Tuesday. A pretty soggy start to Wednesday. That sunny break might end up happening on Thursday. I'll keep you posted tomorrow. And notice that warm up in temperatures we were talking earlier, hitting our warmest day yet this October. Likely on Thursday and Friday. And yes, that is a soggy looking forecast, Anita. I still have to get to the pumpkin patch. So I am looking for breaks in the window desperately, and I will keep everyone else who still has to go to the pumpkin patch posted.
Yeah, that's me. So let me know.
I thought so. I will. I'll keep you posted.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Pandemic supply chain issues have been plaguing businesses for months now, but they're about to really hit home for some Ontario auto workers. As Jacqueline Hansen explains, a shortage of computer chips is putting some of them out of work.
This spring, 1,800 workers at this Chrysler assembly plant will be laid off.
It's really disappointing.
It's going to hurt Windsor. It's going to hurt everybody.
They're the latest Canadians to feel the impact of the global shortage in semiconductor chips, used in everything from cruise control to power steering.
It is quite amazing when you think that just a component that, is a couple of dollars can really halt the full production of a product that is, tens of thousands of dollars.
It's estimated Canada will produce just 1.2 million vehicles this year. That's down from 1.4 last year and far below the pre-pandemic yearly average of 2.2 million. Without enough of the chips to go around, the industry is narrowing its focus to fewer vehicles.
When automakers are prioritizing where they're sending these final chips, it is going to these higher-end vehicles outside of Canada.
Chip production has been slowed by COVID, a Texas winter storm, and a Japanese factory fire. Plus, demand has surged. The time it takes to deliver a chip order has hit a record high. It used to take 8 to 12 weeks. Now it's nearly 22. On car lots, that means fewer vehicles and higher prices.
It's very much a seller's market if you're looking to trade in a used vehicle, or if you have a vehicle that you're not using and you want to get some money for it. Now is the time, because dealers are paying a premium just to get any inventory on their lots.
Some analysts expect the supply and demand of chips to balance out by the middle of next year, at which point Ontario's premier is hopeful shifts will return to the Windsor assembly plant.
Folks, I can tell you we're going to ramp that back up.
And that a $1.5 billion commitment at the same plant to invest in future production of electric vehicles will be the light at the end of the tunnel. Something for workers to look forward to, rather than a pink slip.
Hopefully they stick to their commitment,
Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Montrealers are mourning the loss of one of the city's firefighters who died last night in the line of duty. 58-year-old Pierre Lacroix was killed as he saved the lives of 2 boaters in the St. Lawrence River. As Chloe Rinaldi reports, video on social media showed what his team was up against.
Flags at all Montreal fire departments have been lowered to half-mast in memory of Pierre Lacroix.
Firefighter Lacroix was doing what he was trained to do, trying to rescue 2 people that were in imminent danger in the rapids, and unfortunately paid the ultimate price.
Lacroix was a father of 2. He worked at Station 64 in Lachine for 20 years and was experienced in water rescues. Last night, he was involved in a rescue near the Lachine Rapids, trying to save 2 people from a boat in distress.
Our rescue boat made contact with that boat and unfortunately capsized in the Lachine Rapids. All 4 firefighters went in the water, and unfortunately, firefighter Lacroix did not come back up.
Firefighters from several neighboring cities, the Coast Guard, police divers, as well as helicopters from the armed forces and provincial police took part in the search. Infrared cameras confirmed he was caught under the submerged boat. This morning, his body was finally retrieved. Today, the mayor expressed her condolences.
Monsieur Lacroix, le pompier Lacroix, have died doing what he was trained for, what he truly believed was the right thing to do, which is saving others people's life, even if it's mean losing his own.
The head of the firefighters union says there will be support for Lacroix's loved ones and those involved in the search.
Firefighting is really it's a team activity. It's about family. That family goes much beyond the fire stations, and it really goes home to our wives. It goes home to our children. Putting that support network in place is very important for the Montreal Firefighters Association.
The fire department, the Workplace Health and Safety Board, and police will all investigate the circumstances of Lacroix's death. Chloe Rinaldi, CBC News, Montreal.
Winemakers in the Okanagan are facing a challenge this fall harvest season, and it's not the outcome of forest fires and record droughts. What they're up against is next.
The food hub starts here with these purple and green lettuces at Birchbark Farm.
Our products are lumped in with
other farms' products. So as the customer orders, they could have, our spring mix and our sweet and spicy mix and sausages and steaks from another place and so on.
Richard Butt and staff are planting and harvesting every single week, growing lettuce, sprouts, and peppers. He participates in the Food Hub and calls it a seamless operation.
Food Hub, well, it's taking all the local farmers, local producers, meat products, fish products from what I know, but they're taking local producers and connecting them with local customers. So that's what it's all about.
This is how the Food Hub works. On Monday morning, Bud will upload to the website what products he has available that week. Tuesday, customers place their orders. Wednesday looks a whole lot like this. Drying and packaging the greens for pickup. Thursday morning, a local courier service picks it up and brings it here, the Food Hub main office in Corner Brook. Staff with choices for youth sort and bag the food for pickup.
Well, I got a big head of cabbage for making some cabbage rolls. We have some kale. We have some ribs.
Customers like Jerry Rex love the service.
We think it's fantastic because we can order it in advance. They do it all up for us. We just pick it up and you get billed for it and pay for it online. So it's very, very easy to do. No long lineups, and we're supporting local farmers.
We've had an amazing response from customers and producers alike. We have a growing mailing list of over 500 customers, and we get about probably 50 to 60 orders a week, and that's excellent for a pilot program.
George runs the Food Hub through the nonprofit Food First NL, all funded provincially and federally and modeled on the Cape Breton Food Hub. The pilot program started to help farmers thrive during the pandemic, but it turned into a strong farmer-customer connection.
The producers have their own little farm stand, and that is amazing. It's excellent for their individual neighborhoods and communities, but what this allows is our smaller producers to be able to access the larger markets here in the city.
And this farmer agrees. Butt will continue to sell his products on the Food Hub late into the fall, even winter. While the Food Hub is a pilot project for this year, there are plans to continue it in 2022. And Butt and George want to see it grow.
No, we'll keep bringing our products there every single week as long as they're open.
Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
While ski season is coming up, grape harvesting season is here for Okanagan winemakers. And though this summer's record heat and wildfires put a damper on crop yields, Brady Strachan tells us the intense conditions may have produced some spectacular wines.
That's a massive cluster, my God.
The grapes at this vineyard in Oliver are in the final stage of ripening. These giant clusters hanging from the lush grapevines will soon be crushed and made into red wine. It's an exciting time for winemaker Barclay Robinson.
I'm seeing fantastic flavors across the board in our whites and our rosés and then our reds that are coming in right now.
The hot and dry summers in the South Okanagan make it an ideal place to grow wine grapes. But this season has been a challenging one for farmers. Out-of-control wildfires filled the valley with smoke, and an intense heat wave saw temperatures reach into the high 40s. These extreme temperatures led to poorer fruit-setting grape plants and reduced yields, anywhere from 15 to 30%, depending on the variety. However, winemakers say the exceptionally hot and dry summer also helped to concentrate the flavors within the berries.
That concentration of flavor is going to give fantastic wines for 2021.
Crews are now working overtime as grapes come in from the field. The plump red fruit is hand-sorted. Berries are separated from stems during the crushing process and then sent to these massive vats for fermentation. As for the smoke this summer,
you won't taste it in our final wines at all because of the technology that we have and also what we do during fermentation.
a few kilometers away, the wine grapes are coming in from the field at Balwinder Dhaliwal's vineyards. He's not worried about the smoke taint in his wines either.
I think this is the best vintage since we're doing this, almost 25-30 years.
The best vintage?
The best vintage, I will say, for the red.
Ultimately, that will be for consumers to decide when tastings begin next year. But for now, BC winemakers are optimistic they won't be disappointed.
The people, they love wine, they know about the wine, they definitely can tell the difference this year.
Brady Strachan, CBC News, Oliver, British Columbia.
Thanks for watching CBC Vancouver News at 6. We'll be right back here tomorrow night. And tonight, we leave you with pictures taken by our photojournalist from the Prime Minister's meeting today in Kamloops with the Kamloops to Secwepemc First Nation.